It's my humble honor to be here as the author of the book, Akpokuedike. I met Willie Obiano in 2004 during the banking sector consolidation. At that time, the governor-elect, Professor Chioke'S was the central bank governor and had introduced a mandate that all banks must raise their capital from a minimum of 2 billion naira to at least 25 billion naira. And Chief Dr. Willie Obiano was then an executive director at Fidelity Bank. As was introduced, I'm an investment banker, and I've been working in investment banking for the last 31 years, having started my career in New York, London, before coming to Nigeria to establish my company, AfriInvest. And AfriInvest at the time was advising another bank, FSB International, then run by Malam Mohammed Hayatuddin. And ultimately, we came to Fidelity Bank as a potential suitor for Fidelity to acquire FSB Bank. So in the process of that consolidation transaction, which we were advising, I worked intimately with Willie Obiano and got to know him from then on. And that was how the relationship built on. Shortly after that consolidation, I think about 2012, he retired from Fidelity Bank and apparently relocated to America. It was only in the middle of 2013 that I was called on by Akpokuedike, the present Commissioner for Budget and Economic Planning, to say, please come and help me. Chief Willie Obiano is going to be the candidate for ABGA, and he needs us to help develop an economic blueprint for Anambra State. So again, we were reacquainted, and in his house in Lagos, I was there many times, many nights, working on what was the initial structure of the 4 pillars and the 8 enablers that then fed into the manifesto. And ultimately, we are here today, 8 years later, and we are living and breathing the transformation he has visited on Anambra State. One of the first things His Excellency the Governor did was to do not physical infrastructure, but institutional infrastructure. It goes without saying that you cannot run a government without the appropriate institution. And the first institution is set up was ANSIPA, Anambra State Investment Promotion and Protection Agency. So upon the establishment of ANSIPA, which probably happened within 3 months of being sworn in as governor of Anambra in 2014, AfriInvest, my company, was invited to be a financial advisor and a fund manager to ANSIPA and work closely with the then pioneer managing director of ANSIPA and the pioneering chairman is late. Both of them are late now. So that was how that relationship began in 2014. Akpokuedike was then an executive director of ANSIPA, and we then formed the initial ideas of how you begin to actually take an idea into action and move the thought of, okay, we want to attract investors, but there's a very unusual environment where insecurity was rife in Anambra. I recall then when I would land in Enugu Airport and rush to Awka for a meeting, by 4 or 5 p.m. I was eager to drive out of Awka because of the insecurity. These days, I come to Awka and I have a choice of 5-star hotels I can pick to stay on, and if I want to stay a week, I have no fear of staying here. So that's transformation. From that point, we laid out the idea of ANSIPA being what they call a one-stop shop. So when an investor comes into the state, they don't have to go to multiple ministries and departments and agencies of government to get approval for what they want to do. But through ANSIPA, which on its governing council has the appropriate commissioners, the Attorney General is there, the Secretary to the State Government is on the board, The Commissioner of Lands is there, Budget and Planning is there, Commissioner of Finance is there, Tourism and Culture. So you then find that investors only needed to come to ANSIPA and they immediately had a gateway into Anambra State. And through that arrangement, we have Linden Farms in Iwariam, which is probably 200,000 bird poultry farm, producing almost 10,000 crates of eggs a day, employing 200 people or so. We've got Chioke'S farms, we've got Excel farms, we've got Chelsea farms. There are lots of investments that have come into agriculture. And then we moved on to other sectors of the economy, and you already are sitting in one of them. Tourism is going to be big in Anambra State because you've now got the structure of a convention center, you've got hotels, you've got an international airport. It's just a question of building out the hospitality sector more efficiently and effectively, and that will become another massive employer of labor. Unfortunately, about 2018, the pioneering chairman of ANSIPA passed on, late Chief Cyril Enweze. And while we're still wondering what to do, His Excellency asked me to become the chairman of ANSIPA. I was very surprised, I was shocked. First of all, I'm from Enugu State, not Anambra State. When I reminded His Excellency that I'm not from Anambra, he said, I don't care, you're the best person for the job, take it. In his usual style, I took it, and from 2019 onwards, I've been the chairman of ANSIPA, and I continue to be so. So, Your Excellency, I'm eternally grateful for the opportunity to serve Anambra State. And in 2021, given that it was now 1 year, the penultimate year for the administration, I told His Excellency, I would like to write a book about you. I think I've learned a lot of things, a lot of practical experience of how you translate an idea into action. In my business, we talk about public-private partnership. We talk about raising capital. We talk about attracting investors. But actually, when you come on ground, you then meet what they call quicksand. You could easily be swallowed by the challenges on ground for you to implement your vision. But working with Chief Dr. Willie Obiano, I learned valued lessons of how you implement an idea and move it to action and have a reality, and we are sitting in one of those ideas. So that was what led to the thinking of writing the book. At that time, I then organized a team led by Chinua Asuzu. Chinua, are you in the room? I think he's here. And then he then organized maybe 10 or 20 young men and women who interviewed everyone that was working around His Excellency, all the MDGs, commissioners, the agencies, to build a full picture. I will not go into the book because that is a prerogative of Professor Osito Obu, but that was how the book was written, and we had the first manuscript ready around September last year. But then the election for the governor-elect had not happened, and I put that on hold. I insisted that we must watch and wait and see the result of that election, because a leader is not successful until he achieves the appropriate transition he wants. And I knew, of course, the governor had selected Professor Chukwuma Soludo as his successor, who was the ABGA flag bearer. And once that election was concluded, we added the 15th chapter of the book and then went to publish. So, again, Your Excellency, Chief Willie Obiano, Your Excellency, Dr. Mrs. Ebelechukwu Obiano Osedieme, I thank you both most sincerely for the opportunity to be of service to Anambra State and the opportunity to write this book.